It started with the dog digging up the wrong part of the backyard. I was just trying to replace a busted fence post. One of those Saturdays where everything's falling apart. My back hurt, I couldn't find my wrench, and the coffee machine had just died that morning like it was sick of my life too. Then my dog, Murphy, half beagle, full maniac, starts barking his head off near the old oak tree. I figured it was just a raccoon or one of the neighbor's stupid squirrels. But when I got closer, I saw he'd unearthed a box. A small metal box, rusted shut, dented, but clearly placed there with intent. And taped to the lid was a note in handwriting I hadn't seen in 15 years. If you found this, I know you're still angry. But you need to read what's inside. Please. Alara. My stomach dropped like I'd swallowed a stone. Alara. My ex-wife. The woman who ghosted our entire marriage the moment she graduated college. Like I was just some unpaid internship she didn't need anymore. I hadn't heard her name in years. Hadn't said it out loud in longer. I wasn't even sure she was still alive, to be honest. And now my dog had just dug up her hidden message like we were in some kind of cheap thriller novel. I sat on the grass and stared at that box for what felt like an hour. Part of me didn't want to open it. I mean, what the hell could she possibly have to say after 15 years of silence? Let me give you the short version, because trust me, you'll get the long one whether you want it or not. Alara left me the day after she got her diploma. Packed up everything while I was at work. No goodbye, no explanation. Just a text that said, I need more. She filed for divorce a week later. I wasn't even mad at first. I was confused. Then I was devastated. Then angry. Then empty. Over time, I convinced myself she'd moved on, found someone else, maybe a guy in a suit who could match her new degree and ambition. I was the blue-collar mistake she erased from her resume. But this box said otherwise. I forced it open with a screwdriver from the shed. Inside, wrapped in a yellowed piece of cloth, were 5 items. A photograph of us on our wedding day, cut down the middle so only I was in it. A key, not labeled. A handwritten letter in that same familiar cursive. A flash drive. And a baby's hospital bracelet with no name. My breath caught. My head spun. I remember saying out loud, like a complete idiot, what the hell is this? Then I read the letter. And I swear to you, nothing in my life, not even the day she left, shook me like that letter did. Because it started with this. Curtis, if you're reading this, he's old enough to look for you now. And I'm scared. You need to be ready. That was it. That was the moment I knew. Alara wasn't back because she missed me. She wasn't back for closure. She was back because something was very wrong. And somehow, even after everything she did to me, I still wasn't ready to face what came next. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat at the kitchen table with that damn box in front of me, staring at it like it might bite me. I read the letter 3 more times, hoping it would start to make sense if I kept reading it. It didn't. It only got worse. She didn't say who he was, didn't give a name, or a location, or even confirm that he was mine. Just vague lines about he's old enough to look now, and if they find him first, I don't know what happens next. Like I was supposed to solve a puzzle I didn't even know existed. And yeah, I cried. I'm not proud of it, but I did. 15 years of silence. And then this out-of-nowhere guilt bomb. A baby's bracelet? A flash drive? What was I supposed to do with that? I felt like a ghost had come back to life and slapped me in the face just to remind me how worthless I was when she left. By morning, I still hadn't opened the flash drive. I didn't know if I could. Part of me thought it might be some kind of virus, or one of those long-winded video apologies filled with tears and lies. But curiosity won. I plugged it into my old laptop, the same one she used to write her scholarship essays on. It still had her name saved in the user folder. That detail alone made my stomach twist. There was only one file on the drive. A video, unlisted, time-stamped from 6 months ago. I hit play. It was Alara. She looked older, obviously, but still sharp, still elegant in that impossible way that made me feel like a janitor standing next to royalty. Her hair was shorter, her eyes tired, like she hadn't slept in weeks. And her voice, it cracked when she said my name. Curtis, if you're watching this, then I guess you found the box. That means I ran out of time. Ran out of time? What the hell did that mean? She went on, saying things I couldn't believe were coming out of her mouth. That she'd made mistakes. That leaving me wasn't about me being small town or dumb or boring. It was because she was scared. Scared of being like her own parents. Scared of being loved in a way she couldn't control. And then she said it. I was pregnant when I left. That sentence shattered me. I actually dropped my coffee mug. It exploded on the floor like a punctuation mark to everything wrong with my life. She'd been pregnant, and she left? She knew and didn't tell me? I just sat there with my head in my hands, rocking slightly, trying not to scream. In the video, she said she hadn't told me because she thought it would trap her. That's the word she used, trap. Like I was some kind of snare in the woods, and she was a deer. She said she tried to raise him on her own, but he started asking questions when he turned 14. Asking why he didn't have a dad. Asking who Curtis was, because he'd found some of her old journals. He's out there looking for you now, she said. And I'm scared because someone else is too. That part confused the hell out of me. Someone else? Who? Why? She didn't explain. The video cut out after she said she hoped I'd forgive her, but she didn't expect me to. That she just wanted me to be prepared, because they'll use him to get to you. I wanted to scream. Who are they? So now I'm sitting here with a rusted key, a bracelet, a torn wedding photo, and a video full of half answers. And worst of all, I think she's right. I think someone is watching me now. My truck alarm went off 3 times last night, and there's a black SUV that's been parked at the end of the road for 2 days with tinted windows. That never happens around here. I don't know if this is some elaborate manipulation from the woman who broke me, or if I'm caught in something I never asked to be part of. All I know is this. If I have a son out there, and he's in danger, I'm not going to fail him the way I was failed, even if it kills me. The next day, I took the key from the box and drove around town like a lunatic trying to figure out what had opened. It wasn't for my house, wasn't for our old storage unit. It didn't even fit any of the locks in my garage, and I've owned the same junk since before she left. I even tried it on my late father's old fishing locker at the lake. Nothing. I'll be honest, I wasn't doing well. I was running on 2 hours of sleep and spiraling fast. I kept replaying Alara's words in my head. He's out there looking for you now. It sounded like a warning, not a reunion. And that part about someone else searching for him? That one had claws. I didn't tell anyone about the box. Not even Dawson, who's been my best friend since middle school and usually the guy I vent to over a case of cheap beer. I didn't want to say the words out loud yet, saying it would make it real. Instead, I kept the flash drive and the bracelet in my coat pocket like they were some kind of cursed relics. Then something happened that flipped everything sideways. Around 10 p.m., I was closing up the shop when a kid walked in. I say kid, but he was probably around 15, maybe 16. Tall, skinny, awkward posture. Looked like someone had hit pause halfway through a growth spurt. He wore a faded hoodie, jeans 2 inches too short, and beat-up sneakers. Nothing out of the ordinary, until he looked at me. And I swear to God, it was like looking into a cracked mirror. Same eyes. Same crooked smile I used to hate seeing in the bathroom every morning. Even the same twitch in the left eyebrow when he got nervous. My heart stopped. He didn't say a word. Just placed an envelope on the counter and walked out. I didn't move. Couldn't. It felt like someone had unplugged me. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely tear the envelope open. Inside was a note, short and sharp. We both deserve the truth. Meet me at the Greenlight Motel. Room 5. Midnight. No name. No explanation. Just that. I should have called someone. The police. A lawyer. Anyone. But instead, I stood there alone in the fluorescent lights of my empty shop, gripping that note like a drowning man and whispering to no one. What the hell is happening? Because if that kid was who I think he was, then my life wasn't just broken anymore. It was officially unraveling. I should have turned around the second I pulled into the parking lot. The Greenlight Motel had always been a dump. Flickering neon sign, stained curtains, and the kind of parking lot where people either whisper or don't come back out at all. But I was already too far gone. I couldn't stop thinking about that kid's face. About how he looked at me. Like he already knew. It was 11:58 when I knocked on the door to room 5. No answer. I knocked again, this time more hesitantly, like I was half hoping no one would open. Then it creaked. Just a crack at first, then slowly wider. He stood there, hoodie off. Same messy brown hair I had in high school. He didn't smile, didn't speak, just motioned for me to come in like we were old friends picking up where we left off. I stepped inside and immediately regretted it. The room smelled like mildew and bleach. The curtains were drawn shut, and only one yellow lamp flickered in the corner. On the table sat a second envelope, and next to it, my old college class ring. The one Alara had stolen when she left. He finally spoke. You kept the photo, right? He asked, like it was some kind of test. His voice was deeper than I expected. Measured. Almost rehearsed. I nodded slowly. You're... I'm Nolan. He didn't say your son. He didn't call me Dad. Just Nolan. Like a stranger introducing himself at a bus stop. I didn't know whether to hug him or collapse. My legs were shaking, but I stayed standing. He pushed the envelope toward me. She told me you'd find the box eventually. She said you might be too angry to come. I wasn't angry. I lied. I was confused. Nolan sat down on the bed, elbows on knees, eyes on the carpet. She disappeared 3 weeks ago. My heart actually stopped for a beat. What do you mean disappeared? I mean, one day she came home from work, and the next morning she was just gone. Her phone was still on the counter. Keys still in the bowl. But no sign of her. Cops think she skipped town. I know better. I swallowed hard, chest tight. Why would she leave you again? He looked up at me then. Eyes sharp, jaw clenched. Because someone was following her. Same people who've been sitting outside your house the last 2 nights. I blinked. You saw them too? He nodded. They've been following me since she vanished. I had to ditch school. Left everything. I've been staying in crap motels and using burner phones just to keep them off me. Who are they? I asked, trying to hide the panic rising in my throat. He hesitated. You won't believe me unless you read what's in that envelope. I picked it up slowly, fingers trembling. The flap wasn't sealed. Inside was a folded map, a blurry photograph of a man I didn't recognize, and a printed document marked Property of Black Hollow Corporation, eyes only. And beneath that? Subject, Curtis Hawthorne. Status, active link. That's my name. I looked at Nolan, stunned, words caught in my throat. He just stared back and said, I don't think she ever left to escape you, Curtis. I think she left to protect you. And now we're both in the middle of something way bigger than either of us ever knew. I don't even remember leaving the motel. 1 second I was holding that folder, staring at the words, Property of Black Hollow Corporation. And the next I was in my truck with the engine running, hands white-knuckled on the wheel. Nolan sat beside me, silent. He hadn't said another word since he dropped that bomb about Alara leaving to protect me. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for the update, son I never knew existed? I was spiraling hard. My brain kept trying to make it all smaller, simpler, something I could fix with a wrench or an angry voicemail. But this wasn't about a broken marriage anymore. This was something else. Something darker. Something that had apparently been following both of us for years without me noticing. Which, honestly, felt like the most humiliating part. How did I miss it? How did I live for over a decade, drinking bad coffee and whining to myself about heartbreak, while this shadow kept crawling closer? I parked behind the diner on Hawthorne Avenue, our usual after-hours spot back when life made sense. The lights were off. It was past 1 a.m. I wasn't hungry anyway. I just needed to breathe. Nolan finally spoke. You ever hear of Black Hollow? I shook my head. No. Sounds like a Halloween theme park. It's a private tech group. Research, development, surveillance. Unofficially. Publicly, they don't even exist. Alara used to work for one of their contractors before she left. My gut twisted. What do you mean before she left? He rubbed his face, looked exhausted. She told me she was recruited right after graduation. Something about predictive behavior analysis. She said they were building software that could forecast a person's decisions weeks, sometimes months, in advance. Based on patterns, data, biometrics. Stuff I don't understand. I leaned forward, trying to keep up. So why would they care about me? That's what she didn't explain. Just that your name kept showing up in their projections, flags, red zones, warning triggers. She said you were considered a data anomaly. Something they couldn't predict. They don't like that. I laughed. I actually laughed. Me? A mechanic in a dead-end town? I'm the most predictable guy alive. I've eaten the same lunch for 5 years. But Nolan was dead serious. And yet you're still the only person their system couldn't account for. That's why she left. She thought staying would expose you. Or get you. Disappeared. That word hit hard. Disappeared. The kind of word people use when they're too scared to say killed. I swallowed, my throat dry. So why come back now? Why send the letter? The box? She knew they were getting close again. She left the map and key with me in case she vanished. I was supposed to find you and finish what she started. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear him anymore. Finish what? He pulled out a flash drive from his backpack, different from the first, and handed it to me. She made this 2 weeks before she went missing. It's encrypted. She said you'd know where to take it. I looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Nolan, I barely know how to check my email. I don't even have Wi-Fi at the house. What could she possibly expect me to? A loud crash interrupted me, glass shattering. My back window had just been smashed in. I hit the gas without thinking, tires squealing as we flew out of the alley. In the rearview mirror, I saw 2 figures in black sprint toward where we'd been parked. No faces. No plates on their vehicle. This wasn't paranoia. They were real. They were here. And they had just made their first move. I didn't even know my truck could drive that fast. We didn't stop until we were an hour outside town, coasting into a nameless gas station in the middle of nowhere. My hands were still shaking on the wheel, and I could barely form a sentence. I just sat there, engine running, heart in my throat, eyes scanning every pair of headlights that passed on the highway like they might belong to someone sent to erase me. Nolan didn't say anything either. He just kept looking at the shattered glass behind us, clutching his backpack like it was the only thing keeping him upright. I felt useless, powerless, like a pawn that had suddenly found itself in the middle of a chessboard with no idea what the game even was. Eventually, I mumbled, "We need help." But who the hell do you call when your ex-wife, who vanished for 15 years, suddenly reappears via secret messages and then disappears again, leaving behind cryptic files and shadowy enemies? The cops? They'd laugh me out of the station. My lawyer? He once accidentally sent my tax forms to the wrong Curtis. There was no one. Not really. Until I remembered one name. Maxine Langley. Back in the day, she was Alara's roommate for 1 semester before Alara transferred schools. I hadn't thought about Maxine in over a decade, but I remembered something strange. Right before Alara left me, Maxine showed up out of nowhere, asked to crash in our guest room for a few days. Alara told me not to ask questions. Maxine had weird energy. The kind of woman who always seemed like she was watching more than she was saying. We never talked much, but something about her stuck with me. I pulled out my phone and did something I swore I'd never do. I searched Facebook. Took me 10 minutes to find her. Maxine Langley. Living in a cabin near Ridgetree Ridge, population 300. Profile photo. Her holding a shotgun and a German Shepherd. Okay, terrifying. But still better than nothing. Nolan looked skeptical when I told him. You sure she'll help us? I'm not sure she won't shoot us, I said, half joking. But if anyone knew what Alara got tangled in, it's her. We drove in silence for the next hour and a half, winding up narrow roads into the hills, barely lit and barely paved. My GPS lost signal halfway up the ridge. We had to guess the rest. By the time we pulled up to her property, it was nearly dawn. A thick fog had rolled in, and her cabin looked like something out of a crime documentary. I stepped out of the truck, legs stiff, glass crunching under my boots from the broken window. The second I approached the porch, the front door creaked open. Maxine stood there, barefoot in a bathrobe, holding a mug of coffee and a revolver. Well, she said flatly. Took you long enough. I froze. You were expecting us? She rolled her eyes. He's your son, isn't he? Then she turned and walked back inside without another word. Nolan and I just stared at each other for a second. I don't know how she knew. I don't know how much she already understood. But as I stepped into that cabin, I realized one thing with absolute certainty. This wasn't a coincidence. Alara didn't leave the map and files by accident. She was sending us here, for a reason. And Maxine Langley? She knew more than either of us was ready to hear. Maxine didn't waste time with small talk. She handed me a towel for my bleeding hand, tossed Nolan a blanket, and locked the door behind us with 3 separate bolts. Then she sat at the kitchen table, lit a cigarette like we were in some 1950s noir movie, and said, So, Alara's gone, huh? I nodded, still half expecting to wake up. We think she's been taken. She hasn't, Maxine replied, almost bored. She's hiding, but it won't last. They'll find her again. They always do. I wanted to scream. Who are they? Maxine exhaled slowly, like she was choosing her words carefully. You ever wonder why she picked you, Curtis? That threw me off. Picked me? What is this, a dating analysis? I'm serious, she said. Alara was brilliant. Calculated. She could have married anyone. But she chose you. A mechanic. No offense. Some taken. She knew you wouldn't register on the radar. You weren't part of the network. You had no digital footprint, no advanced education, no professional connections. That made you invisible. Safe. You were a shield. And she loved you for that. At first. My stomach sank. At first, she tried to live a normal life. But Black Hollow doesn't forget. Once you've seen behind their curtain, they own you. She left you because she knew they were watching. Nolan leaned forward, his voice sharp. Then why didn't she just tell him? Why lie about everything? Because knowing puts a target on your back, Maxine said. The moment Curtis started asking the right questions, he became a variable. And Black Hollow hates variables. I looked between them, my heart pounding. What do they want now? Maxine flicked ash into an old mug. They don't want you. Not anymore. They want him. She pointed at Nolan. Because he wasn't supposed to exist. Silence. Nolan froze. What do you mean? Alara signed a non-procreation clause when she was recruited. It's standard in their high-clearance contracts. No spouses, no kids. No distractions. But she broke the agreement. She kept her pregnancy hidden. And when you were born, she said, looking directly at Nolan, you inherited something they weren't prepared for. Nolan looked pale. What did I inherit? Maxine got up, walked to the back room, and returned with a thick file. She dropped it on the table. A neurological anomaly. Rare. Extremely rare. Alara found out when you were a baby. You don't just absorb information, Nolan, you forecast it. Just like their system. Except you were born with it. I felt like the floor dropped beneath me. You're saying he's what? A human supercomputer? Close enough, Maxine said. That's why they want him. He's the missing piece. He's not just part of the system. They think he is the system. Naturally evolved. If they get him, they'll plug him into their predictive models and turn him into a weapon. Nolan pushed back from the table, visibly shaking. I didn't ask for any of this. I reached out, but he stood up and stepped away. I just wanted to meet my dad. I didn't want to be something they can use. You're not a thing, I said, trying to hold back the rising panic in my chest. You're my son, and no one's using you for anything. Not while I'm still breathing. Maxine stared at me. Then you need to run. Right now? Both of you. Go off-grid. I'll stall them if I can, but once they trace your location, it's over. And what about Alara? I asked. We just leave her. She left you to protect him, Maxine said, cold but honest. Now it's your turn to return the favor. There was a sound outside. Low. Mechanical. Like tires on gravel. Maxine's face changed instantly. Too late. She grabbed the revolver. You've got 5 minutes. Through the basement. There's a tunnel behind the water heater. It leads to the woods. Nolan looked at me. For the first time since this began, I saw fear in his eyes. I didn't hesitate. I grabbed his hand, and we ran. I've never run so hard in my life. Nolan and I tore through the tunnel behind Maxine's water heater, ducking low as dirt and roots scraped our backs. It felt endless, like crawling through the veins of the earth itself. I could hear the muffled chaos above us. Shouting, footsteps, the crack of wood splintering. Maxine hadn't hesitated. She was stalling them, buying us the seconds we needed to disappear. When we finally burst out into the woods, the cold air hit us like a slap. The sun was barely rising, and the forest was dense, fog curling through the trees like ghosts trying to whisper us back. But we didn't stop. We ran until our lungs burned, until Nolan collapsed against a tree and I nearly threw up from the adrenaline. We spent the next 3 days hiding. I used every back road I knew, every forgotten gas station, and old hunting trail. We slept in the truck, ate canned food, and stayed off the grid. Nolan barely spoke, and honestly, I didn't push him. He'd had a lifetime of questions dropped on him in a week. The least I could do was let him breathe. On the 4th day, a message came through. From Maxine. It was one sentence. She's safe. They're gone. You can come home. No explanation. No details. But somehow, I knew she was telling the truth. I don't know how Maxine pulled it off, what strings she yanked or what ghosts she summoned, but Black Hollow backed off. Maybe they found someone else to chase. Or maybe Nolan really was unpredictable enough to spook them. Either way, they disappeared. We went back home, quietly. I boarded up the broken window in the truck and finally threw away the last pieces of that rusted metal box. Nolan started staying at the house more often. At first, he slept on the couch, never unpacked his backpack. But then one night, he made dinner. It was terrible, burnt mac and cheese with a side of cereal, but he tried. And the next morning, his backpack was gone from the hallway. He'd moved into the guest room. I asked him, one night when we were fixing up the shed together. You think she'll ever come back? For real this time? He didn't answer right away. Then he looked at me and said, she already did. In her own way. I guess he was right. 2 weeks later, I found another envelope taped to my front door. No return address. No name. Just my name written in handwriting I'd never forget. Inside was a photo, recent, taken in hiding, I guess. Alara, sitting on a bench in front of a cabin somewhere in the mountains, smiling gently at the camera. And next to her, scribbled on the back in faded ink, a message. You kept him safe. I always knew you would. Tell him I love him. And I never stopped loving you, either. E. I stood on the porch for a long time that night, staring out at the road. No SUVs. No shadows. Just silence. And for the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel abandoned. I just felt peace. Nolan's finishing high school now. He helps me at the shop part-time. He's awkward, still figuring himself out. But he's sharp, scary smart. Smarter than I'll ever be. I told him he doesn't have to become anything he doesn't want to. Not a system. Not a weapon. Not even a genius. Just a good man. I think that's all Alara ever wanted for him. And for me too, in some strange, painful, backward way. She left me once. But she gave me back everything that mattered in the end.